You are not watching the news when it starts. You are doing something ordinary, checking your phone, heating leftovers, thinking about tomorrow. Then the notifications stack up faster than you can read them. At first, nothing feels real. The words are heavy, but your room is still quiet. The walls have not moved. The air feels the same. Your body does not react the way you expected. World War III. It sounds too large to fit inside a living room, too abstract to belong to a single person. Psychology suggests this moment matters more than the explosions you imagine later, because this is where the mind makes its first mistake. You tell yourself that clarity will come soon, that someone will explain it, that there will be rules. But uncertainty does not arrive with instructions. It arrives softly, wrapped in routine, asking your brain to choose between believing and waiting. And most people choose to wait. Not because they are weak, but because the human mind is designed to protect itself from overload. This is how global crises truly begin, not with panic, but with quiet disbelief. The first day does not feel like a turning point. Markets pause, flights hesitate, officials speak carefully, using words that sound temporary. Escalation. Response. Ongoing assessment. Life continues just enough to confuse you. Psychology shows that when systems around us remain partially functional, the brain assumes stability. As long as the grocery store lights stay on, as long as your phone still connects, the mind delays acceptance. The conflict unfolds in layers, not all at once. Military movements are discussed in abstractions, maps, arrows, analysts arguing over intent. The scale is global, but the information reaches you in fragments. You notice people behaving politely in public. Conversations stay surface level. There is an unspoken agreement not to look directly at what is happening. This is not denial in the dramatic sense. It is cognitive pacing. The mind absorbs threat in controlled doses to avoid paralysis. By the second day, small changes appear. Shelves thin in ways that do not trigger alarms, just quiet adjustments. Online discussions grow sharper. Jokes disappear. Everyone watches everyone else for cues on how seriously to take this. History shows that during early global crises, people rarely act on facts alone. They act on social signals. If no one panics, the brain assumes panic is unnecessary. This is how a worldwide conflict settles into daily life before it explodes outward. Not with sirens. With silence, waiting to see who moves first. Inside the mind, something subtle begins to fracture. You are informed, but not oriented. You know something is wrong, but you do not know what to do with that knowledge. This is where a powerful cognitive bias takes hold, normalcy bias. Normalcy bias convinces the brain that tomorrow will resemble yesterday, even when evidence suggests otherwise. It filters threat through familiarity. As long as life looks mostly the same, the mind assumes it will stay that way. Psychology suggests this bias is not ignorance, it is protection. Accepting a true global crisis all at once would overload the nervous system, so the brain delays, it compartmentalizes. It tells you that escalation will slow down, that leaders will regain control, that this moment is temporary. From the observer perspective, this looks like calm, but internally, it is tension without release. Sleep becomes lighter. Attention fragments. You scroll longer, not for information, but for reassurance. You notice how often your thoughts return to logistics, work deadlines, errands, as if maintaining routine could anchor reality. Socially, people become careful. Not kinder, not crueler, just cautious. Conversations avoid absolutes. Nobody wants to be the first to say this is real, because saying it out loud forces the brain to commit. Research indicates that humans often wait for collective permission to emotionally react. We look to others to validate our fear, our concern, our readiness to adapt. Until that permission arrives, the mind hovers in a suspended state, alert but inactive. This psychological limbo is not the absence of stress. It is stress without direction. And it quietly drains cognitive energy, day by day. If you are someone who wants to understand your own reactions under pressure, not just survive events, but stay mentally intact through them, this is where awareness begins. Not with fear, but with noticing. Noticing how your mind delays, how it protects you, and how that protection can turn into vulnerability if left unchecked. Understanding crisis psychology is not about preparing for catastrophe. It is about recognizing when your own brain is quietly deciding for you. Crisis mindfront exists for people who want clarity when uncertainty stretches on. If that mindset resonates with you, stay with us. You are not alone in this. By the third day, the silence feels heavier. Not louder, not chaotic, just dense. You notice it in small behaviors. People check their phones more often, but speak less about what they see. News anchors slow their pacing. Language becomes cautious, almost ceremonial. Somewhere else, decisions are being made that will not be reversed. You do not know where, and that is part of the weight. An image returns to your mind. The first moment you heard the phrase World War III, where you were standing, what you were holding. That memory becomes a reference point, quietly replayed as events continue to unfold. Psychology suggests that the brain marks the beginning of perceived threat with a snapshot. This mental image anchors uncertainty, even as facts change. Public spaces feel the same, but not identical. Eye contact lingers a fraction longer. Exits are noticed. People position themselves closer to those they trust. Nothing has collapsed yet. That is what makes this phase dangerous. Because the absence of immediate consequence reinforces delay. It whispers that preparation can wait, that adaptation can come later. History shows that many societies do not feel the psychological shift of crisis until options narrow, until choice becomes reaction, until waiting costs more than acting. And by then, the quiet has already done its work. There is a way to regain agency before pressure hardens into panic. Psychology points to cognitive control as the first lever, not controlling events, but controlling interpretation. When uncertainty stretches on, the brain defaults to passive monitoring, endless scrolling, rechecking headlines, waiting for certainty that never arrives. This drains attention without improving readiness. A grounded response begins with narrowing focus. Limit information intake to intentional windows. Choose sources that explain rather than speculate. This reduces cognitive noise and preserves decision-making capacity. Next comes emotional regulation. The nervous system reads ambiguity as threat. Simple physiological actions can interrupt that loop. Slower breathing, physical movement, maintaining sleep routines even when rest feels shallow. These signals tell the brain that stability still exists somewhere. Social adaptation matters more than isolation. Research indicates that people who maintain small, trusted social circles during prolonged crises retain psychological flexibility. You do not need consensus, you need connection. Finally, rehearse mentally, but gently. Not worst-case scenarios, but next-step thinking. If this continues, what changes tomorrow? If conditions shift, what is within your control? This trains the brain to move when needed, instead of freezing. Empowerment during quiet collapse does not look dramatic. It looks like calm preparation, while others wait for certainty. And that difference compounds over time. Quiet collapse does not announce itself. It fades in, disguised as patience, disguised as reason, disguised as waiting for more information. From the outside, it looks like calm. From the inside, it feels like holding your breath without realizing it. History shows that the most difficult phase of a global crisis is not the moment of impact. It is the stretch of uncertainty, where the mind must decide whether to adapt before it is forced to. World War III, if it ever arrives, will not begin everywhere at once. For most people, it will begin psychologically, in how reality is interpreted, in how long disbelief is allowed to linger, in whether awareness turns into readiness. The mind that notices early does not panic sooner. It stabilizes sooner. That is the quiet advantage. Crisis Mindfront explores these moments, because survival is not only physical, it is cognitive, it is emotional, it is social. If this perspective helps you stay grounded when uncertainty stretches on, subscribe for more insights into resilience and survival psychology. And consider this question as you move forward. If uncertainty continued for weeks instead of days, would your mind still be waiting, or would it already be adapting?